Have you ever felt adrift, lost in a sea of endless notifications, relentless expectations, and a quiet, gnawing sense that you are not in control of your own life? You wake up, and before your feet even touch the floor, the weight of the world rushes in. The emails that demand your immediate attention, the social media feeds that parade an endless highlight reel of other people's successes, the news cycle that screams of chaos and uncertainty. You feel a pressure to be more, do more, and have more. Yet this frantic pursuit leaves you feeling less connected, less peaceful, and more exhausted than ever before. You might find yourself lying awake at night, your mind racing, replaying conversations, worrying about the future, and questioning your own decisions. Feels like you are a ship tossed on a stormy ocean, at the mercy of every wave, every gust of wind, with no rudder and no compass to guide you. This feeling, this modern malady of anxious striving, is the silent epidemic of our time. We have more information than any generation in history, yet we often lack wisdom. We have more connections, yet we often lack true community. We have more opportunities, yet we lack the inner fortitude to navigate them with grace. What if I told you there was an ancient operating system for the human mind designed specifically for this kind of world? An internal framework so robust, so practical, and so timeless that it has guided emperors, soldiers, artists, and leaders through plagues, wars, and personal crises for nearly 2,000 years. This is the philosophy of Stoicism, and its most practical and potent distillation comes to us from a former slave who became one of Rome's most revered teachers, Epictetus. In his handbook for life, the Enchiridion, he doesn't offer abstract theories or comforting platitudes. He provides a blueprint for building an unshakable inner fortress, a citadel of the mind that can withstand any external chaos. He teaches us that the key to a flourishing, meaningful, and tranquil life does not lie in changing the world around us, but in mastering the world within us. The foundation of this entire system, the very ground upon which this fortress is built, rests on four foundational pillars, four cardinal virtues that, when cultivated together, create a character of immense strength and profound peace. These are not lofty, unattainable ideals reserved for saints and sages. They are practical skills, muscles of the soul that can be trained and strengthened through daily practice. They are wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. Today, we will embark on a journey to understand these four virtues not as ancient relics, but as living, breathing tools for navigating the complexities of our modern lives. We will see how they are not four separate qualities, but four interconnected aspects of a single, unified excellence of character, a way of being that can transform you from a ship tossed on the waves to the calm and confident captain of your own soul, capable of sailing through any storm. Before we can even begin to build these four pillars, we must first clear the ground and lay the foundation. The single most important, most transformative, and most foundational principle in all of Stoicism is what is known as the dichotomy of control. It is the master key that unlocks every other teaching. Epictetus lays it out with absolute clarity at the very beginning of the Enchiridion. There are things which are within our power, and there are things which are beyond our power. This simple statement is the beginning of all freedom. Within our power are our opinions, our desires, our choices, our judgments, and our will. In short, the inner world of our mind. Beyond our power is everything else: our body, our health, our reputation, our property, the actions of others, the economy, the weather, life, and death. True freedom, Epictetus argues, lies in focusing on what we can influence. The vast majority of our anxiety, our frustration, our anger, and our despair comes from a fundamental misunderstanding of this principle. We exhaust ourselves trying to control the uncontrollable. We stake our happiness on things that can be taken from us at any moment. Imagine an archer standing on a field, preparing to shoot an arrow at a target. What is within her control? She can control the quality of her bow and arrow. She can control her years of practice, the strength in her arms, the steadiness of her breath. She can control her focus, her aim, and the precise moment she releases the string. This is her work, her art. But the moment the arrow leaves the bow, it enters the realm of the uncontrollable. A sudden gust of wind might blow it off course. A bird might fly in its path. The target might collapse. The Stoic archer understands this. Her goal is not to guarantee that the arrow hits the bullseye. That is ultimately outside her power. Her goal is to execute the perfect shot. Her satisfaction, her excellence, lies in performing her function to the best of her ability, in focusing on everything that is up to her. The outcome is merely a preferred indifferent. This is the mindset that liberates us. When you apply for a job, your task is to write the best possible resume, to prepare diligently for the interview, to present yourself with honesty and confidence. Whether you get the job is not up to you. That depends on the other candidates, the interviewer's mood, the company's budget, 1,000 factors beyond your control. To tie your sense of self-worth to the outcome is to volunteer for misery. Instead, you find your success in the quality of your effort. True freedom stems from recognizing which aspects of life we can control, such as our thoughts and responses. Once you have deeply internalized this division, once you truly understand where your power begins and where it ends, you are ready to use that power with skill. This is where the 4 virtues come into play. They are the 4 expressions of a mind that has grasped the dichotomy of control and is now learning to operate with excellence within its proper sphere. The first and most vital of these virtues, the one that illuminates the path for all the others, is wisdom. Practical wisdom, or phronesis as the ancient Greeks called it, is the master virtue. It is the ability to see the world clearly as it is, without the distortions of our fear, our ego, or our desires. It is the skill of navigating the complexities of life in a logical, rational, and virtuous way. It is not about accumulating facts or having a high IQ. It is about the clarity of your judgment. This is precisely what Epictetus meant when he delivered one of the most profound insights in the history of psychology. Men are disturbed not by things, but by the views which they take of things. This is a revolutionary idea. It tells us that an external event, in and of itself, is neutral. It has no inherent power to harm us. A traffic jam is not bad. A critical comment from a boss is not terrible. A failed project is not a catastrophe. These are simply events. The disturbance, the pain, the suffering comes from the judgment we attach to them. Our suffering is a product of our own mind. The Stoic approach, therefore, is to become a vigilant gatekeeper of our own judgments. Wisdom is the practice of inserting a pause between an event and our reaction to it. In that pause, we have the power to choose our response. Let's imagine a young woman named Clara, a talented software developer. She has been working for months on a major product launch. The night before the launch, a critical bug is discovered that will force a 2-week delay. This is the external event. Now let's observe 2 possible paths. The path of unwisdom is one of immediate emotional reaction. Clara's mind floods with catastrophic judgments. This is a disaster. My career is ruined. My boss will think I'm incompetent. The whole team will blame me. I'm a failure. These judgments are not the event itself. They are a story she is telling herself about the event. This story creates panic, shame, and despair. In this state, she lashes out at her colleagues, sends frantic, unprofessional emails, and is incapable of thinking clearly about a solution. She is disturbed not by the bug, but by her view of the bug. Now let's look at the path of Stoic wisdom. When the news of the bug arrives, Clara feels the initial sting of disappointment. She is human after all. But she has been practicing. She takes a deep breath and creates that crucial pause. She reminds herself of the dichotomy of control. The bug has been found. That is in the past. It is not in my control. My emotional reaction, my next actions, my communication, these are in my control. Then she applies the wisdom of Epictetus. She separates the event from her judgment. The event, a bug was found and the launch is delayed. The judgment she chooses. This is an opportunity to show resilience and leadership. This is a chance to make the product even better and more secure for our users. This is a test of our team's character. This chosen perspective changes everything. Instead of panicking, she becomes calm and focused. She gathers her team, not to assign blame, but to collaborate on a solution. She communicates transparently with her superiors, framing the delay not as a failure, but as a commitment to quality. Her response, guided by wisdom, transforms a potential crisis into a demonstration of her competence and integrity. She chose to wish them to happen as they do happen. 5, and as a result, she could go on well. The event was the same in both scenarios. The difference was the application of practical wisdom. This process of examining our judgments is the central work of a Stoic. It is a lifelong discipline. It requires us to become detectives of our own minds, constantly asking ourselves, is this judgment true? Is it helpful? Is it within my control? This is the foundation of modern therapeutic techniques like cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, which has its roots directly in Stoic philosophy. We learn to challenge our automatic negative thoughts and replace them with more rational and constructive ones. We hold ourselves accountable for our views rather than blaming external factors. To cultivate this wisdom, you can begin with a simple but profound practice. Take a journal, and at the end of each day, reflect on one thing that caused you emotional distress. Draw 2 columns. In the first column, describe the external event as objectively as possible, as if you were a camera recording the scene. For example, my coworker received a promotion that I wanted. In the second column, write down all the judgments, beliefs, and stories you attach to that event. This is unfair. Management doesn't value me. I'll be stuck in this role forever. My coworker is not even that good. Look at the 2 columns. Recognize that all your suffering came from the second column. The first column is just a fact of life. This exercise, practiced consistently, will slowly train your mind to stop confusing your stories with reality. It is the first, essential step in building that inner fortress. The first pillar of wisdom that will support all the others. Once wisdom has illuminated the correct path, we need another virtue to give us the strength to walk it, especially when that path is steep, rocky, and filled with fear. This virtue is courage. In our modern world, we often associate courage with heroic cinematic acts. The soldier on the battlefield, the firefighter running into a burning building. These are undoubtedly acts of courage, but Stoic courage, or Andrea, is a much broader and more personal concept. It is the moral and mental fortitude to face reality, to endure hardship with resilience, and to act on our principles even when it is difficult or unpopular. It is the courage to do the right thing. Epictetus points to the heart of this when he warns that if we try to avoid the inevitable hardships of life, we are setting ourselves up for misery. He says, if you shun sickness or death or poverty, you will run the risk of wretchedness. The courageous person does not seek out these things, but they do not live in fear of them either. They understand that such things are external and beyond their ultimate control. Their focus is on facing whatever life presents with dignity and virtue. Stoic courage, then, is not the absence of fear, but the judgment that something else is more important than fear. Consider the story of a man named James, a mid-level manager in a large corporation. He discovers that a senior executive, someone with a great deal of power and influence, is manipulating sales numbers to make their department look more successful than it is. This is not just a minor infraction. It is a serious ethical breach that could eventually harm the company and its employees. James is now at a crossroads that will define his character. He feels fear, and rightly so. The fear whispers to him, stay quiet. This isn't your problem. If you speak up, you'll make a powerful enemy. You could lose your job, your reputation. You have a family to support. Just look the other way. This is the voice of self-preservation, and it is powerful. The path of cowardice is to rationalize inaction, to tell himself it's not his place, to let the deception continue. But James has been studying the Stoics. He understands that while he cannot control how the executive will react or what the company will decide, he absolutely can control his own choice to act with integrity. He knows that his character is one of the few things genuinely his own aid. He applies wisdom to see the situation clearly. A wrong is being committed. He then summons his courage. This isn't a sudden burst of reckless bravery. It's a calm, deliberate resolve. His courage is rooted in his commitment to justice and truth. He knows that living with himself as a coward who compromised his principles would be a far worse fate than losing his job. So, he meticulously documents his findings. He seeks advice from a trusted mentor, and he schedules a meeting with the appropriate compliance officer. He walks into that meeting with his heart pounding, but his resolve firm. He speaks the truth calmly and factually, not with malice, but with a sense of duty. This is true Stoic courage. It is the application of will in the face of fear, guided by a rational understanding of what is right. He is acting like a soldier in the army of life, following his orders which come from his own virtuous reason. Vivere militare. Life is being a soldier. This kind of moral courage is required of us every day in small and large ways. It is the courage to have a difficult but necessary conversation with a loved one. It is the courage to admit when you have made a mistake, without making excuses. It is the courage to set boundaries with people who drain your energy. It is the courage to pursue a dream that others might ridicule. It is the courage to face a scary medical diagnosis with composure and focus on what you can control: your treatment, your attitude, your response. Research on first responders, police, firefighters, paramedics, shows that the most effective coping strategies involve facing the event head-on, not avoiding it. They seek to understand, to find meaning, and to regain a sense of mastery over their own response. 10. This is Stoic courage in action. They cannot control the emergencies they face, but they can control their training, their focus, and their commitment to their duty. To cultivate this virtue, you can practice a technique of voluntary hardship. This doesn't mean being reckless. It means intentionally stepping outside your comfort zone in small, controlled ways to build your resilience. For example, you could take cold showers for a week. You could choose to fast for a day. You could deliberately take on a public speaking opportunity that you would normally avoid. During these moments of discomfort, you are not punishing yourself. You are teaching yourself an important lesson. I can withstand this. This discomfort is temporary and not harmful. My peace of mind does not depend on constant comfort. You are inoculating yourself against future, involuntary hardships. The Stoics believed that by practicing with these small challenges, you strengthen your soul for the great and unavoidable challenges that life will eventually send your way. Start small. Identify one thing you have been avoiding out of fear or a desire for comfort. It could be a conversation, a task, or a new experience. This week, make a conscious decision to face it. Before you do, remind yourself of what is in your control, your preparation and your actions, and what is not, the outcome. Then act. Each time you do this, you are casting a vote for the person you want to be, and you are building the second great pillar of a virtuous life: courage. With wisdom as our guide and courage as our engine, we are now capable of moving through the world with purpose. But where should that purpose be directed? Stoicism is not a philosophy of self-absorbed navel-gazing. It is deeply social. The third cardinal virtue, justice or dikaiosune, ensures that our actions are not only wise and courageous, but also fair, kind, and beneficial to the human community. Justice is the virtue of our relationships with others. It stems from the Stoic belief in the cosmopolis, the idea that all human beings are citizens of a single, universal community. We are all part of one body, and what harms one part ultimately harms the whole. Therefore, our duty is to act with fairness, integrity, and goodwill towards our fellow citizens. Justice is wisdom and courage applied in the social sphere. It is about understanding our duties and fulfilling them honorably. Let's revisit Clara, our software developer. After courageously deciding to tackle the product bug head-on, she now faces a series of choices that will test her sense of justice. The easiest path would be to find a quick temporary fix, push the product out to meet the revised deadline, and hope for the best. This would look good on paper and might earn her praise in the short term. But wisdom tells her this is a short-sighted solution that could create problems for users down the line. Her sense of justice comes into play as she considers her duties to all the stakeholders. She has a duty to her customers to deliver a product that is reliable and secure. She has a duty to her company to protect its long-term reputation. She has a duty to her team, not to put them in a position where they are constantly fighting fires caused by a rushed, flawed product. An unjust person is ruled by selfishness. They would ask, "What is the best outcome for me?" They would hide the full extent of the problem, perhaps shift blame to a junior team member, and prioritize their personal career advancement above all else. A just person, however, asks, "What is the right thing to do?" Clara, guided by justice, chooses the harder but more virtuous path. She advocates for taking the necessary time, not just to fix the bug, but to conduct a full review of the code to ensure no other similar issues exist. She is transparent with her superiors and with the marketing team about the realistic timeline, even though it is not the news they want to hear. In her team meetings, she fosters a culture of collective responsibility rather than blame. She acts as a shield for her junior developers, taking ultimate responsibility for the oversight. Her actions are not designed to make her popular. They are designed to be fair, honest, and in the best interest of the entire community she serves, her team, her company, and her customers. She chooses to act according to your judgment, regardless of public misunderstanding, Levin, because her judgment is aligned with the good of the whole. This virtue of justice is woven into the fabric of our daily lives. It is in how we treat the barista who serves us our coffee. Do we see them as a mere functionary, or as a fellow human being deserving of respect and a moment of genuine connection? It is in how we conduct our business. Do we seek to win at all costs, or do we strive for fair outcomes where everyone benefits? It is in how we engage in disagreements, online or in person. Do we seek to dominate and humiliate, or do we seek to understand and find common ground? Justice requires us to expand our circle of concern beyond ourselves and our immediate tribe. The Stoics saw this as a natural progression. We are born with a love for ourselves. This naturally extends to our parents and siblings, then to our wider family, then to our neighbors, our community, our country, and ultimately to all of humankind. Justice is the active practice of this ever-expanding sense of connection. To cultivate justice, we can begin by practicing empathy and seeing situations from the perspective of others. For your practical exercise, try this for one day. In every interaction you have, make a conscious effort to consider the other person's point of view. Before you react to a frustrating email from a colleague, pause and ask, what pressures might they be under? What information might they be lacking? What is their intention here? When you are about to get into a disagreement with a family member, stop and think, what is their underlying need or fear that is driving their position? This practice is not about agreeing with everyone or being a pushover. It is about replacing blind, reactive judgment with a more considered, compassionate, and ultimately, a more just understanding. This is how we build the third pillar, by consistently choosing fairness over selfishness, duty over convenience, and integrity over personal gain. We become a force for good in the world, strengthening the bonds of our shared humanity. We now have wisdom to see the right path, courage to walk it, and justice to ensure it serves the common good. But there is one final formidable enemy that can derail us at any moment: our own appetites, our desires for pleasure, our cravings for status, our impulses for immediate gratification. These can act like powerful currents, pulling us off our chosen course. The fourth and final virtue, temperance or sophrosyne, is the skill of mastering these inner forces. It is the virtue of self-discipline, moderation, and balance. Epictetus states it with stark simplicity: no man is free who is not master of himself. 12. If you are ruled by your impulses, your need for another drink, Your urge to check your phone, your craving for junk food, your desire to procrastinate, you are not truly free. You are a slave to your appetites. Temperance is the act of declaring your independence. It is crucial to understand that Stoic temperance is not about a joyless life of self-denial. The Stoics were not ascetics who believed pleasure was evil. They simply believed that we should enjoy life's pleasures without becoming enslaved by them. They made a distinction between healthy, natural desires for food, for connection, for rest, and unhealthy, irrational desires for fame, for excessive wealth, for luxury beyond all need. Temperance is the wisdom to know the difference and the discipline to choose a life governed by reason rather than by craving. In our modern world, this virtue has never been more critical. We live in an environment that is expertly designed to hijack our impulses. The endless scroll of social media, the addictive nature of streaming services, the carefully engineered hyper-palatability of processed foods, the constant lure of online shopping, these are all powerful forces battling for control of our minds. Without temperance, we are defenseless against them. Let's consider a man named Mark. He is a creative individual with a deep desire to write a novel. This is his long-term rational goal that aligns with his core values, the person he wants to be 13. However, he is constantly at war with his first-order impulses. When he sits down to write, his phone buzzes with a notification. The desire for that small, immediate hit of dopamine is strong. He tells himself, just for a minute. That minute turns into 30. Then he feels a pang of hunger. Instead of making a healthy meal, he orders fast food because the desire for instant, salty, fatty gratification is overwhelming. In the evening, he plans to read a book that will inspire his writing, but the autoplay feature on his streaming service kicks in, and the desire to escape into a passive, effortless narrative takes over. At the end of the day, he has written nothing, eaten poorly, and feels a sense of self-loathing. He is not free. He is a puppet, and his impulses are pulling the strings. This is a state of intemperance. The path of temperance begins with self-awareness and small, intentional acts of self-control. Mark decides to apply Stoic principles. He doesn't try to change everything at once. He starts by creating rules for himself, guided by reason. He decides that for the first hour of his workday, his phone will be in another room. When he feels the urge to check it, he practices what some modern Stoics call the Stoic pause. 14. He stops, takes a breath, and acknowledges the craving without acting on it. He tells himself, this urge is just a sensation. It is not me. I am the one who chooses. He is exercising his second-order will, his desire taught to be the kind of person who can focus. 15. He plans his meals in advance, reducing the opportunity for impulsive decisions. He sets a timer for his leisure time, allowing himself to enjoy a show, but then making a conscious choice to turn it off and pick up his book. Each time he overrides an immediate desire in favor of a more rational, long-term goal. He is strengthening his muscle of self-discipline. He is slowly but surely becoming the master of his own mind, not its servant. His freedom is growing with every disciplined choice. To cultivate temperance, choose one area of your life where you feel your impulses are in control. Could be your diet, your screen time, your spending habits, or your tendency to procrastinate. Do not try to achieve perfection. Instead, introduce one small, clear rule and stick to it for 1 week. For example, I will not buy anything online for 7 days, or I will stop eating at 8 p.m. every night. Or, I will meditate for 5 minutes before I check my email in the morning. The goal of this exercise is not necessarily the outcome itself, but the process of asserting your reason over your impulses. It is the practice of self-mastery. With each small victory, you are laying the final, stabilizing pillar of your inner fortress. You are proving to yourself that you are, in fact, in charge. And so, our fortress stands complete, supported by its 4 mighty pillars. But it is crucial to see that these are not 4 separate structures. They are a single integrated whole. They flow into and support one another, creating a character that is resilient, effective, and at peace. Wisdom without courage is mere intellectualism, knowing the right thing but being too afraid to do it. Courage without wisdom is recklessness, acting bravely but for a foolish or misguided cause. Justice without temperance can become a self-righteous and exhausting crusade, burning you out before you can do any real good. And temperance without justice can become a selfish pursuit of personal purity, disconnected from the needs of the world. You need all four, working in harmony. When faced with a challenge, wisdom is the ability to see the situation clearly, separating what is in your control from what is not. Justice is the ability to determine the right and fair course of action, considering your duties to others. Courage is the strength to execute that action, especially in the face of fear, pain, or difficulty. And temperance is the self-mastery that keeps you on that path, preventing you from being distracted by your own desires for comfort or pleasure. This is the Stoic blueprint for a good life. It is an active, ongoing process, a daily practice, not a final destination. Let's return to that person we imagined at the beginning, the one feeling adrift and overwhelmed in the chaotic sea of modern life. Imagine them now, months later. After beginning to practice these principles, the world around them has not changed. The emails still arrive, the news is still chaotic, and social media still presents its curated illusions. But everything within them is different. When faced with a demanding boss, they no longer see a personal attack, but an external event. They use wisdom to choose a calm, rational response. When they see the seemingly perfect lives of others online, they no longer feel envy or inadequacy. They use temperance to master that impulse, reminding themselves that they only control their own path and their own actions. When a friend is in need or a wrong is committed in their community, they no longer feel helpless. They use justice to identify their duty and courage to take a small, meaningful step to help. They are no longer a ship tossed by the waves. They have built their own rudder. They have found their own compass. Their peace is no longer dependent on the calmness of the sea, but on the strength and skill with which they captain their own vessel. This is the promise of Stoicism. It is not a promise of a life without pain, without loss, or without difficulty. Such a life is impossible, and would not be desirable even if it were. As Epictetus reminds us, when we lose something or someone dear, we should not say, "I've lost it," but "I have restored it." 16. We are to remember the transient nature of all things, even those we love most tenderly. 7. The promise of Stoicism is the promise of an inner strength that is more than a match for life's challenges. It is the promise of a quiet mind in a loud world. It is the promise that by focusing relentlessly on what is within your control, your own thoughts, your own judgments, your own character, you can achieve a state of profound freedom and unshakable tranquility, a state the Greeks called eudaimonia, a state of human flourishing. The path is there. The tools are in your hands. The work is yours to do. Begin today. Choose one virtue. Practice one exercise. Take one small, intentional step on the road to becoming the master of yourself, the captain of your soul.